So I just got home from work. It is 6:51 in the morning on Saturday, December 15th. And yesterday the news was filled with an unspeakable tragedy, as the news often is, but this one was a lot different. And even after 9/11, something that bothered me almost as much as the event itself was some people were very impacted visibly and shaken and wanted to do something, but many weren't as affected as I felt they should be. um, this tragedy of the shooting that took place in Newtown, Connecticut, which had 20 children, resulted in 20 children being shot to death and 6 adults at a Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, was different. It was very different. And before I went home this morning, a guy I work with came in. Well, I don't work with him. He works on a different shift. He came in, and I didn't know if it would even come up in conversation. But it was kind of bittersweet in a way to see how affected he was, because he looked like I felt all day yesterday. When I heard the news, I think I'm going to get through this without crying. I've been crying about it all night. Uh, when I heard the news of little 5-year-old children being shot by someone they didn't even know for no reason. Whenever I hear of innocence being taken or innocence being affected, wronged in any way, it always bothers me. It's why I'm against abortion. But to hear of little 5-year-old children, I mean, I realize that I'm focusing on the 5-year-olds, and the 10-year-olds count too. But just cute little kids. I see cute little kids all the time, and they're very heartwarming. And as children, I can't think of any children that aren't in some way cute. And what's cute about them is their undeveloped innocence. They're at a very sweet stage in their lives. And when you think of being like 5 years old, you think of the fact that when you're that age, some pretty mild stuff scares you. There's boogeymen in the closet. You need a nightlight. Maybe some don't, but a lot of kids do. Um, some minor things frighten you as a child. The unimaginable horror of watching your classmates be shot and blood pouring out of them and their lifeless bodies on the floor. This is beyond the pale. Even I had a discussion. We talked about this. A guy I work with last night during the night. I barely. Hey, if the boss hears this, I'm sorry. I barely got anything done last night because I've been so profoundly affected by this, and I've got this terrible pain in my throat that just won't quit. And I didn't eat dinner last night, and it's not a normal day, and this is not a normal tragedy. This is not a normal, sad story. This is above and beyond. It really is. This is so far beyond the pale. As I said to a coworker last night, I said, in some ways, this is more profound than 9/11. 9/11 had a bigness to it. It was big. It was huge. It was, buildings and mayhem, widespread chaos and destruction. But it was terrorist extremists on a mission that we all know about, and that think they're right, that think that in America we're evil and worthy of nothing but death. This 20-year-old who shot these kids, I mean, we don't know the reason, but it seemed to be a pretty random act of violence. I realize he in the reports he had some sort of mental problems. Well, but can we just check a box here and say mental problems? Because I don't see how you look at something like this and not see demons. And some of you just, when you heard that, you just switched me right off. And that's very sad, because how could it, for you to think it's crazy, just scoff at the prospect of demonic possession when you see an act like this? So you really feel comfortable attributing this to human behavior, to mental problems? That's really, I think that's just too facile. I've never heard of anything like this before. Maybe there has been something like this before, but I can't think of anyone randomly killing little children. And you say, well, gee, is it that much more tragic that it's children? Yeah, afraid it is. I mean, I had this discussion with a coworker last night, and he sort of concurred with me. Like, when shootings happen in high school, you can kind of get your head around, like, a teenaged kid, boy, it's always boys, being filled with so much angst that he just flies off the handle and just goes nuts. He's disaffected and disattached from what he's doing. He's seeing red. He's not there. And then and even in the case of James Holmes, I think, no, of course this is speculation, but I think James Holmes created a fantasy world. And James Holmes clearly had cognizance of some consequences, because he went in there with armor. He didn't want to be hurt. I think that he may have been so wrapped up in some sort of fantasy world, but known enough of the reality to want to protect himself. But if you listen to reports since then, James Holmes has done things like banged his head so hard against a wall or a sink or something that he was bleeding. And I mean, he's shown signs of regret since. So, and I think a lot of times that's the place where people that do these types of acts, that commit these types of heinous acts, that's the place they're at. It's like they have some kind of a filter, a temporary filter that they've sort of built up. They've built it. It took some contriving, but they kind of built up a filter to block out reality, and then reality eventually washes over them. This goes beyond. You can't put this in the same category, I guess, as these kinds of things. Even when a mother kills her own children, a mother either just snaps, can't take parenting and can't take the pressures of life and snaps and kills her children, or she sees, like, she projects her problems onto her child and sees her child as an obstacle, like is in the case of Casey Anthony. Now, Casey Anthony's a heartless person. Yeah, she's very cold, and I think is obviously sociopathic. But it was like she was disattached from reality because she just saw her daughter, I think, as an obstacle to her fun. She loved her sin more than her own daughter, and wanted her lifestyle of sin more than she wanted to love her own daughter, and that's disgusting and despicable. But there's like a you can kind of make, you can get your head up, and I'm not saying don't I have to be careful here because I don't want to what I'm saying to be misconstrued like I understand and I could do the same thing. No. I'm just saying that you can sort of piece these things together and kind of make sense, fully acknowledging how wrong and how disgusting these acts are, but you can kind of get your head around them. But this latest thing, you cannot just chalk it up to a mental problem. Can you? How? How could you do that? How could you just say, well, he had ADD and learning disabilities and whatever the heck they're saying, and okay, we have the next, but no. To do something this heinous, you have to be driven by an outside force. You have to be. And for you to just, because it's too icky for you to face and you don't want to admit that demons exist and that Satan exists and that there's evil in the world, well, you're just being narrow-minded and you're just closing the door on sorry, but reality. Yeah, they're real. Demonic possession is real. And if you are as affected, if you're in the club of being as affected as I am over this, where you literally physically ache, chest hurts, my stomach hurts, my throat hurts, my head hurts, because it's just manifested itself in the physical. And I think that, when I saw a guy that comes in the morning where I work, and he came in, I could see it in his eyes that he was feeling the same thing. And even though I was sad for him, I was relieved in a way. I was like, well, good. That's how he looked is how we all should look right now. That is how we should all be feel. We should all be shocked so hard to our core. We should be aching for these people. And if you're not, wow, I'm sorry for you. I know that there's some people out there that are like, well, there's nothing you can do about it. Look, if you aren't, if you could watch the news yesterday of this story and not be absolutely chilled like you've never been chilled, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself, because something's going on with you. Sometimes I see people's lack of reaction to a story like this, and it causes me to withdraw just that much more from the world. I admit it. Typically, I am socially withdrawn because the world I live in has radically changed. I get called a radical because I don't fit into this world. I don't. I'm not some sort of. You want to. If you need, if for your security's sake, you need to. For your whatever, you need to elevate yourself by putting me down and saying, well, you're some kind of recluse, and you're just as weird. You could be the next shooter. If whatever you need to say about me to elevate yourself over me, okay. Hope you feel good. I hope if by my withdrawing and by my keeping people at arm, if you don't understand that and you need to psychoanalyze me and say wretched things about me, that is not really something I'm gonna sweat. But if you feel like I do about the news yesterday, call him. Call him. God is alive. And He cares. And He's our refuge. And I mean call Him in the name of Jesus Christ. Because that is the one refuge, the one and only refuge. Call upon the name of Jesus Christ, which, we're supposed to, this is what this season is supposed to be all about. Give God a chance. If not, I can't even advise you to go to the bar. So many of you are doing that anyway. You need to get out of the bar and back into the church. I really love all people. Because if you're good enough for Jesus, then you're good enough for me. So, God bless you.